It's the top 5 reasons to hire a probate real estate agent. You ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Selling a House in Probate in California channel. I'm Brendan Mohr. I'm a certified probate and trust specialist and realtor here in California. I've worked on several probate sales, and this is Bill Heyman.
Hi, I'm Bill Heyman. I've worked in the probate world for about 35 years, both with probate attorneys and with what we call brokers, people trying to do it on their own. I'm a licensed professional California fiduciary. I'm also a registered and bonded California legal document assistant. I'm also have my realtor broker's license here in California, and I'm also a licensed agent in Nevada, and I'm also a licensed and bonded Nevada legal document assistant. I knew I'd get that right sooner.
Yeah, hey, it's a lot. It's a lot to put out there.
And the continuing education is a killer for me, believe me.
Oh man. All right. Well, hey, we want to answer your questions today on this particular topic of the top 5 reasons that it's important to hire a probate real estate agent. Being a real estate agent who has great experience in probate sales, it might surprise you, but by far, most real estate agents have never worked on either side, either representing a buyer or a seller for a probate sale. And there's lots of misconceptions. So I'll just let you know the first big reason is because probate sales are different. They're different than a regular real estate sale. And I do a lot of regular real estate sales, and I do a lot of probate real estate sales. From the very beginning of a probate sale, they're very different. So if you're not dealing with an agent who knows this and knows the ins and outs and all the little details, it's going to be a much more complicated process than it should be.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of the times, probate sales are really fairly simple as long as you know what to do. Some of the big differences is whether or not the court has granted the administrator or the executor limited authority or full authority. And one is far simpler than the other. And you end up spending a lot of time explaining to a buyer's agent the differences. We'll get into that later in this, and we'll also do a separate video on the differences between limited and full authority. Another thing is the disclosures.
Yeah, they are different. They are different.
A seller doesn't have to do certain disclosures because as a seller, it wasn't your home. You may not know as much about the home, so you're not required to certain disclosures. But then there's other disclosures that they have to do. And
one of the big things is that a lot of people don't realize is that with a probate sale, believe it or not, you're not required to have smoke detectors in a probate sale. That's just not a requirement that you have to have, although most buyers will ask for that anyway because it's pretty standard. But in a probate sale, those things aren't required.
Right. Of course, their lending may end up requiring them to.
That's true. And lender could require it.
Right.
Absolutely.
And a probate sale is an as-is sale. So a lot of times we're requiring the buyer's side to do certain repairs that normally a seller would actually do in a regular sale. The timeline is different in a probate sale. For the most part, one with full authority is pretty similar to a regular sale. But Bill will talk about a little later some of the process he goes through in order to put the documentation out there that is required.
There's different documentation that the title company is going to require in a probate sale.
And that'll change the timeline. Sometimes a buyer will come to us and say, hey, I have cash. I want to close in 7 days. That's great. In a regular sale, that's possible. But in a probate sale, most of the time, that is not a possibility. But a period of maybe 18 to 30 days is pretty common, as long as you're working with an agent who really knows the process.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Such as the required documents that Bill will talk about later on. there's just more documentation of items that a lot of agents wouldn't realize are there. Even if the agent has worked in the representing a buyer before, they probably have no idea what the listing side representing the seller has had to do for documentation.
Yeah, there's quite a bit more work for the listing side or the listing agent in a probate sale than the buyer's side. So it's really, really important that you have a listing agent that knows what they're doing in probate. Very important.
Oh, absolutely. And we're probably making it sound like it's really complicated, because it kind of is. But one of the jobs of a probate specialist is to really, at least for the seller and really the buying side, is to help to simplify the process with their knowledge of the whole process.
I was going to say, if you have a very knowledgeable real estate agent with probate on the listing side, he will potentially catch and nip in the bud, as they say, problems that normally crop up for agents that don't have experience in the probate world, probate sales. Experienced agent will catch those before they even happen, so that there's no problems there. And again, as Brendan said, we'll get into some of that a little later, and more likely in some future videos.
Right, and which maybe brings us to our next reason.
Yes.
Why it's important to hire a probate real estate agent.
Absolutely. You really want an agent that has that experience in the probate world, because in probate, you need to carefully examine the preliminary title report on a probate property to make sure that you're catching items that are kind of unusual for probate sales. That can be more of a concern than a regular sale. And one example would be, oftentimes in a probate sale, we're dealing with a home that belonged to mom and dad, and they'd lived there for maybe 30, 40, 50 years. And perhaps they took out a loan on the property back in the early 80s. Well, you think about that, that's pushing 40 years ago. And back then, when people took out loans, usually it was a 30-year fixed-term loan. Well, that loan should have been paid off. And if it's still appearing on the title report, it usually means that someone forgot to record the reconveyance deed showing that that loan had been paid. Brendan, I know, can testify to this. We have faced numerous issues like that. And if you don't have an agent that's experienced dealing with situations like that, it can really cause problems in trying to get the escrow closed.
Now, that's a big difference that we don't normally see in regular sales, where I usually refer to those as phantom mortgages that used to exist that now don't. They maybe have been paid off, but we just don't have a record of it anywhere. And there's a process to go through that and eliminate that from the title report. But it can be a lengthy process if you don't catch it early. Yes. So an experienced agent will actually review the title report before even going on market. You don't want those types of problems to occur prior to going on market. No. And it's just one of those things, we see them commonly in probate. But as long as you're working with an agent who knows what they're doing, we'll navigate through that.
Absolutely. That kind of brings us to the next reason of the top 5 reasons you want to hire an experienced probate real estate agent. And that is, you really want an agent that has experience working with probate attorneys when you've got a probate attorney involved.
Oh, absolutely. And Bill here is a legal document assistant, has great experience working with attorneys. What are some of the things you look for in a relationship with an attorney?
Well, I know a lot of people probably listening to this video don't necessarily always have the greatest experiences with attorneys, and most of us want to avoid attorneys in our lifetime if we can. But I will say that most probate attorneys are hardworking and are trying to get the job done. Mm-hmm. But what you have to realize when you're working with an attorney in a probate is the probate attorney is not always conscious or aware of the existing real estate deadlines that are happening in conjunction with the probate deadlines that have to happen as well. So you really need an experienced realtor with probate so that, number one, he can communicate well with that probate attorney to make sure that, one, that the probate attorney is getting the probate related side docs done in a timely manner so we can close escrow when we're supposed to. And also you want to be able to communicate well with the probate attorney the various real estate deadlines that we have to meet on the real estate side. So it's really, really important that an agent have or be able to have a good working relationship with that probate attorney.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we've seen it multiple times where there are certain things that we need an attorney to do, and the attorney isn't necessarily thinking of the deadlines we have in real estate. A lot of times, a buyer is in a 30-day escrow period. They want to close within 30 days, and they're also getting a loan. And when you're getting a loan, they're locking the interest rate for a certain amount of time. It's usually about a 30-day rate lock, sometimes 45 days. If it doesn't close within that period, they often have to pay maybe thousands of dollars to extend that rate lock. Plus, they've planned their moving and all of that. So if we don't have everything on our side in order to close, they can't close on time, and a lot of that falls on the attorney. But it's also our communication, the real estate agent representing the seller, their job to communicate with the attorney to make sure those things are happening. You know, in the legal world, I think a lot of attorneys are used to getting continuances or having much longer, broader deadlines.
Yeah.
In real estate, everything is in these very, very small contractual timelines. So as long as you're working with a real estate agent that knows how to communicate with an attorney and those documents that are needed, then it should be a smooth process.
Yeah, and I just want to circle back real quick with something you said earlier, Brendan, about the rate locks. In today's world, which the date today is September 15th of 2022, interest rates are rising, and people who can't get escrow closed on time and lose their rate lock, those buyers are going to be subject to, like Brendan said, a lot higher costs, and they might even be priced out of the ability to afford the mortgage. So it's really critical that you be able to work with that probate attorney and make sure that all probate deadlines and all real estate deadlines are met. It's very, very important in today's world.
Oh, absolutely. We have one of our escrows right now. If there were some delays in it, perhaps the notices of a proposed action didn't go out in time, and it delayed the closing, they could have to extend that rate lock significantly to where they wouldn't be able to afford it. Yeah. That sale falls out of escrow, and now we're in a weaker position because interest rates have risen about a whole % since we got into escrow on this one. That now the home may not sell for the same amount because there's less affordability. So there's a lot of great reasons to really look out.
Absolutely.
Just for that one piece.
Absolutely.
And I suppose that brings us to our next topic.
Yeah. Number 4 is you really need a probate real estate agent that has a good working relationship with a title company, a title company that has experience in probate. That is so critical to being able to work through a probate escrow.
Oh, absolutely. We've seen it multiple times. We've gone through multiple title companies and escrow officers, and you might think that an escrow officer does many sales, but they're not often probate sales. And because there's the ins and outs of a probate sale can be so different from each other probate sale, they may not know what to look for. Going back to looking through the title report, seeing if there's any information in there like what I call the phantom mortgage or IRS liens or anything else that's problematic on there. Usually it's some type of a lien. And sometimes a title officer or an escrow officer doesn't really look out for that in advance and know that there's some work that really needs to be done maybe even before we go on market. And there'll be other times where the communication between the title company or the escrow officer and the seller hasn't been where we need it to be. And we have to step in.
And another issue too that I know I've had crop up, and I think we have too on 1 or 2 probate escrows. Sometimes what will happen is, again, I kind of go back to earlier I was talking about, a home that mom and dad purchased 30, 40 years ago. Mom passed away first, let's say, and then dad passed away, and then we're probating the estate and trying to sell the house. Well, sometimes nobody removed mom's name from title before we got into this whole selling of the probate home process. Now, not that that's a huge issue, because normally mom and dad are on title in such a way that it's usually a simple affidavit to prepare, sign, and record to remove mom's name. But sometimes you're working with a title company that doesn't catch that until the very last minute. And I've had situations where we've had to scramble at the very last minute to close escrow to get a certified copy of a death certificate for mom, because you need that. And again, you're looking at potential delays, which in today's market, you really can't afford for your buyers, especially. But those are the type of things where if you have an experienced title company dealing with probate and when someone passes away, they will catch those things early and will get them out of the way so that it doesn't delay our escrow closings.
We could really make a long video on this topic in itself, just because of the things that we've seen.
Yes.
I cannot tell you how important it is to be working with a real estate agent who has a great relationship with an escrow officer, a title company that has great experience in probate. It's
critical.
It is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's just issues that they can easily drop the ball.
Yeah.
And there's a number of them. We would bore you with all the different details of that.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about it now, I think it's maybe one of the most important topics we've just brought up.
Yeah, it's very important if you want to get that escrow closed in time. But
and
that probably is going to bring us down to reason number 5 that you want to have an experienced probate real estate agent, and that is you really, really need an agent that has the ability to educate the buyer's agent on this process. And I know Brendan has a lot of experience in doing that.
Oh, absolutely, Bill. It might surprise a lot of people, especially if you don't have too much of an actual knowledge of the inside of the real estate industry and how it works with real estate agents. By far, most real estate agents have never represented a seller in probate or a buyer. And if they have, there's just so many different details about a probate sale that can really change the process. So because of that, sometimes a buyer's agent, even when looking at the listing, when they see it in the online listings, they may shy away from it because they see it's a probate sale. But there's a part in the listing that we can put information that only the agent can see. And that's a part where if you're working with a very good probate real estate agent, I've seen some not really do this to the point where I think they should probably help out other agents and give more information. They should really put more information about the process, whether or not it's limited authority or full authority, and explain what that means. So a lot of times an agent will think that there's misconceptions. They'll think there's certain rules that a buyer needs to follow. Maybe a very high deposit. Maybe it's going to take 6 months to close. Something like that. When it's a sale where the administrator or executor has been granted full authority. And that's really a situation where it's most similar to a regular sale.
Yeah. On the buyer's side.
On the buyer's side, yes.
Side, not on the seller's side.
Yeah, not on the seller's side for sure. But one of our jobs is to really make it look easy and streamlined, and bring, I suppose, confidence to the buyer's side, the buyer's agent, that this is a smooth process, that we can get this done. Now, if it's a situation with limited authority, I tend to be fielding a lot of questions about that. And here's a real conversation that I had earlier this year with an agent, and it was something like this. And it was a listing where the administrator was granted limited authority. And that's going to be in a video we talk about later on. And limited authority is quite a bit different than full authority. Where you have to go to court and there's a hearing just to confirm the sale. And there's a whole process involved. But the conversation went like this: Brendan, I've been working in real estate for 40 years. I've done thousands of sales. I have never done a probate sale that required court confirmation, one where the seller has limited authority. Can you explain this to me? And it's at least a 10-minute conversation, because there are complexities. There's quite a bit that needs to be known. But then there's also fears that an agent and their buyer may have. And one of our jobs, I think, is to help alleviate some of that,
Yeah.
those fears.
Absolutely. Yeah. You definitely need a experienced probate real estate agent who can, just what Brendan was saying, communicate well with the buyer's agent to help a lot of times calm them down and let them know that, hey, we'll get this done. We've done this before, and we'll get through this and we'll get it done. And again, I want to circle back to something Brendan said earlier, which I think is really important. When he was talking about there's an area in the multiple listing that's just for agents. They just see that. The public doesn't see it. It is critical to do what Brendan said, and that is to put in there, number one, whether you've got full or limited authority. But again, you can also put in there some reassuring comments to whoever the buyer may end up being that, look, if it's full authority, this will not be difficult for you. It's not going to be a difficult situation on the buy side. I've seen so many listings that are probate listings where in the agent comments area, there's nothing. They don't put anything. They don't disclose any information or provide anything that's helpful to a potential buyer. And those are the types of listings where buyers and buyers agents will shy away from because they get scared.
Oh, absolutely.
They do.
Absolutely. There's certain wording that I like to put in there to really help assure buyers agents that that we can help to simplify this process. Yep. And I encourage them to reach out to me.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that, a lot of people maybe would not realize is that a lot of agents would just, maybe skip over the listing, be too afraid to take it on. Yeah. So as long as you're working with an experienced agent, they should be reaching out through that part of the listing saying, hey, reach out to me. I don't mind the questions.
No, we do encourage that. Yeah. We encourage other agents to feel free to contact us. We'll be happy to answer the questions. We have years and years of experience doing this, and we can be very helpful to agents that are inexperienced on the buy side. We can.
Yeah, really. I mean, if there's an agent representing a buyer who's never done a probate before, it really is the job of your listing agent to make that an easier situation for the buyer's agent because they can absolutely navigate that process.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe we should just quickly recap the top 5 reasons.
Oh, absolutely.
I think number 1, as we went over, that probate sales are different. We got into that a little bit.
Absolutely.
In future videos, we'll talk more. Number 2 was being able to recognize title report issues, which are unique to probate sales. Number 3, you want an agent that has experience working with the probate attorneys. That's very, very important. And number 4, you want an agent that has a good relationship with a title company that has experience working probate sales. And last but not least, again, you want to have an agent that has the ability to communicate well with the buyer's agent during the process. Those are our top 5 reasons why you want to hire a experienced probate real estate agent to sell your house in California.
And there's so much more to talk about on this subject. And I don't know which of those ones is the most important. It is just very important. I mean, the most important thing, make sure you're hiring a real estate agent who knows what they're doing in probate.
Absolutely.
And we'll go over different questions to ask in a later video as well. So please subscribe to our channel. You'll see videos from us very, very often. And we'd love to answer any of your questions too. So
if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Our contact information will be on our channel, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that we can and help you in any way we can. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks so much for watching our channel of selling a house in probate in California.